It's amazing how many guidelines there are and how regulated this industry is. And so I wanted to mention this quickly. So real estate advertising is regulated by the California Real Estate Law, the Federal Truth in Lending Act and Regulation Z, the regulations from the California Department of Real Estate, the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics, as well as the California Model MLS rules. So it's not me. We're just trying to stay on top of what our obligations are. So
And
now,
save them money,
and
right?
save them money. Yeah, because if you're a target like Mike Dunn, someone's going to report you. So we've witnessed it, right? So let's go through the obligations. Is a real estate broker or office required to disclose license status in real estate? So, for example, that you're a real estate agent. Anytime a broker advertises services for which a real estate license is required, the broker is required to indicate by use of the terms such as broker, agent, real estate licensee, or realtor, or abbreviations such as BRO or ATT, that the advertising is being done by a real estate licensee. So this requirement applies to all real estate salespersons, not only brokers, and that's Article 12 of the Code of Ethics. Now, the legal requirement, it's also requires that you disclose that information. So if a post, story, reel, or live stream is marketing a listing, open house, or your services, even on a personal account, it should clearly show your name, license ID, and brokerage identification, and identify you as a licensee. So, for example, Richard Moore, licensed real estate broker, California DRE number 01335144. You don't necessarily have to identify yourself as a real estate agent or a realtor. Usually you've got something in there, but if the company name itself suggests that it is a licensee, then that is satisfactory. So when I look at people's, and I'm looking more and more at social media, a lot of times on that very face page, I don't see people's license information or I don't see the company name. Now, it many times could be buried beneath there, but the best practice is to include that information on the very front page of your social media. Must a real estate broker or real estate office's name, such as Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties, be included in all advertising of real estate services? Yes, virtually everything you do must include the company name for you to be in compliance. So legal and ethics rules, they're somewhat similar. The ethics rules are typically much more stringent, but whenever a salesperson or broker advertises real estate services, the ad must show the responsible broker's identity. So Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties. It is not a requirement that you put the corporate license ID in. That is optional. So once again, if advertising services that require a real estate license or advertising a property listed with the realtor's office, the actual office name must be shown in the ad. And there are limited exceptions. You can actually have a directional sign. If it doesn't specify your name and it just specifies Coldwell Banker, then it's not necessary that you put your license number there. So there are certain directional signs people have, just as says Coldwell Banker, that's acceptable. But as soon as you put your name on that directional sign, your license information is required in addition to the company name.
Could it be like first name and the license number and the Coldwell Banker?
Well, I would say to be fully compliant, you should have your first and last name. Mm-hmm. Coldwell Banker's name, right? And your license number.
So always has to be first name and a last.
Yes. Now you're entitled to use a nickname, but you must use your last name or surname. That is something that is permissible. And just as long as you once again have your real estate license identified.
Some people make their first name in bigger print and their last name in smaller print, as long as it's all there, right?
And that's okay. Yeah, that's acceptable. But to be fully compliant, you need your first and last name. So let's see, must a real estate licensee disclose his or her own name in advertising real estate services? Yes, you must always include your name and your license number in regards to the responsible broker identity. Must a salesperson also use the broker's name in an advertisement when using the salesperson's name and or telephone number? Yes. Once again, there's no exception. You must include your first name, your last name, your license number, and the name of the broker in which you're associated with. It must be included. And must the licensee identify him or herself as a broker or agent when advertising his or her own property for sale if it is not listed with the office of which they're affiliated. Now, in California, you can sell your own real estate. So if you're doing so, it's not necessary that you identify yourself. The legal requirement is that you don't identify yourself as a licensee. And if you're just selling your own property individually and you're not listing it, you don't have to specify the company name. However, the Code of Ethics has much more stringent requirements. No matter what, you're obligated to disclose the fact that you are a licensee, including your license number and the company name. So if you're some, what was that? What's that?
This information, should it be on the graphic or on the caption?
The caption is acceptable.
Yeah, so like the graphic has the specs of the featured property. And then on the description, then I can say Cecilia Castillo, my real estate number, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, ideally, just as if we're talking about social media for the most part,
Yeah.
it's ideal that it is on the front page. So what I've noticed when I looked at different individuals' social media posts here, I don't see all the information necessarily. Not only is it not on the very first page, but when you drill down, it's not anywhere to be found.
Well, I think most people don't necessarily put the information on the front page, they put it on the caption. So if, as long as it's on the caption, it's okay. Like if you.
So is the caption included with the front page? That would be my question for you.
No, so in a social media post, either on Facebook or Instagram, you have the graphic that has the picture, let's say, and pictures of the property.
Mhm.
And then you have the description, so like feature listed, and then you have the address, the specs, description, a brief description of the property. And then at the bottom, you put Richard Moore, your license number, Coldwell Banker Properties, your phone number, and that's it. But on the graphic, there's no information except.
Just as long as the caption is always shown with the picture,
Yes,
the graphic,
yeah.
then that should be fine. That should be acceptable.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
On the front, because I just pulled up my Instagram. So on the front, I don't have my license, but I have a link to my website. So when you go to the website, then it lists Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties on my license.
Yeah, it's questionable. I would say. You know, what I've read is the best practice is to include it on the very front page. I would think that as the CARS guidelines weren't necessarily completely clear, suggesting that that is not in compliance. So it means to me that probably it is in compliance by doing something like that. And they're suggesting, using their terms, best practices are to include it on their very front page. I guess the real test would be is just for us to report it to the Department of Real Estate and see what they say.
Wonderful. Let me change this.
That changed quick.
At least I got a smile this time, right? Usually it's pretty boring in here. So, and then can you use a nickname in advertising? You're entitled to do that. So you don't have to use the exact first name that's on file with the Department of Real Estate. The last name, yes, you must use, but you once again must have your license number. And then this is always a good one. May a real estate salesperson advertise themselves as an independent real estate professional. So according to the Department of Real Estate, there are no exceptions. Under California law, real estate salespersons cannot provide or advertise that they can provide real estate services independently of their real estate brokers. Salespersons must be associated or affiliated with the responsible broker to engage in real estate related activities. So stating it differently, salespersons are legally dependent on their responsible supervising brokers and salespersons who are engaged in an independent real estate practice, either unaffiliated with the broker or working independently and without the knowledge of their broker of record, are doing so in an unlawful and unlicensed manner. So the Department of Real Estate, I don't know if you ever read the quarterly report that they send out, but in the past they've indicated that they've come across a lot of activity that's in violation or actually violation of law, and a lot of it has to do with property management, as a matter of fact. So we just had an example yesterday. I'm not going to mention any names. On the very front page of the, want to raise your hand?
Both hands. You're proud of it.
Hands.
Like now.
So, can you advertise yourself as Derek Carr Real Estate?
No.
No, good answer, Archie. So, Derek Carr is her last name. So let's assume someone's name is John Doe. And then if you advertise on your website, John Doe Real Estate, is that permissible? No, it's a violation of law because it leads the reader to believe that you're an independent broker. So we don't want to specify in that manner. The safest thing to do is to have the company, call yourself Realtor, Real Estate Services, the Archie team, anything like that. And it's ideal to have the company name there. But if you have the company name at the bottom of that page, that certainly is satisfactory. No question about that.
And if you don't?
And if you don't, then you're subject to ridicule, first of all. And then I would say fines from the Department of Real Estate. And the Department of Real Estate, we've had this happen before. Remember Patrick?
Patrick Nat.
Patrick Nat, he used to be associate of the office. He's been in real estate for years and years and years. Well, he was advertising on a flyer that he sold 13,000 properties in total. Some dramatic number. And somebody in the area that he was farming sent that into the Department of Real Estate. So then I had to document in some manner that Patrick had sold 13,000 properties because they said that that was false advertising. So it was a fight with the Department of Real Estate. Now, we couldn't come up with
brokerage sales, I assume, or like, did he claim the brokerage?
no, him himself.
Oh,
Was that 1,300?
No,
wow, 13,000.
13,000.
So did you have to pay a fine or anything?
Did you do it based off the brokerage?
Well, he's saying he sold new homes that weren't represented on the multiple listing service throughout his entire career. This is the number of properties he sold. So and it was a couple of years ago. At that time, the MLS, and I don't know if it's changed now. It goes back to 1998, I think. So I had to interpolate information because not only is he responsible, but the brokerage is responsible too, because we're required to police all of your advertising activities. So we did get through that, but we will never do that again, right? So because you can't document it. How about another example, right? Because there are examples the Department of Real Estate will publish. So a real estate brokerage said we've sold $500,000 of properties. This is the example the DRE uses. And how do they make that claim? Because they had two people within the same office, each being on one side of a $250,000 transaction. So they were found in violation of the advertising guidelines because it was just one property for $250,000. So we may count that separately when looking at statistics, but just because an office double-ended the transaction doesn't mean that you can double up in regards to what you're advertising. So if you double in a transaction and it's $1 million, you can't say I sold $2 million of real estate and 2 transactions. When
You can't advertise. I represented so many buyers and so many sellers.
You could say that. You could say something like that, but the way it was presented.
Yeah.
We do know that you must include, some of this is repetitive, unfortunately. You must include your 8-digit DRE license number on all advertisements. Then examples of solicitation materials that you must include this information. business cards, stationery, websites, flyers, brochures, emails, leaflets, any marketing and promotion materials designed to solicit the creation of a professional relationship between the licensee and consumer, or is intended to induce or entice a consumer to contact the licensee about any service for which a license is required. So when a social media post is meant to attract a consumer to contact you about licensed real estate services, it is treated as solicitation materials intended to be first point of contact. So the DRE license number requirement applies. And everybody uses videos now, and I think it's great, but you must have your license number and your name to be fully compliant when posting things like that. So the DRE looks at that as all solicitation materials. So we don't want to get into any kind of awkward position, as a matter of fact. Yes.
On the bottom of that ad on Instagram, and you had your name and your license number, and you state.
The company name.
Nope. Or there's no company name, there's nothing about that, just that you're a realtor, and if you're looking for a property, call and give your number. Obviously, then you're not, it's not.
You're not in compliance. Correct.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I just added the DRE number on my Instagram. So does that mean anything I post after that, I'm covered, or each post has
Each
to have?
post.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, the analogy is just, like any traditional farming material you send out, you include all that information. So yeah, each post requires that same information.
It's its own independent advertisement, right?
Pardon me?
It's its own individual advertisement.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Each post is its own individual advertisement. That's exactly how it's viewed.
I heard that some areas you can have your pictures, some areas you cannot have the pictures.
I'm not aware of any restrictions in regards to where you can post your photo. But if you're in a sense creating it, what would go with the photo? Are you going to have any name, any identification information, or do you just post your photos so everyone is contacting?
On your sign, you put your pictures.
You can put your photo on there. That's more of a restriction from the office that you work with, actually.
And certain communities too.
There you go. Okay, they probably have their own guidelines.
Nice.
I don't have any objection to you putting your photo on your sign. If you work with Coldwell Banker Realty, the corporately owned locations, I don't think that they permit something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, easy to go on with.
Yeah.
It's better.
So if you send, listing posts or you DM someone and says, say buy, sell, lead generation reels, market update videos with a call to action, that is considered to be first point of contact, and once again, causing you to post your name, your license number, and the company name. So if you just don't offer anything, then you don't have to put all that information there. But why wouldn't we put that in there? So that's something I find very interesting. Why wouldn't you want to do that? So something else that came up again yesterday with Archie. I'm so glad you're here today, Archie. Promotional materials are typically exempt. So if you have something for just pure branding, the logo, broker's name, maybe a phone number, a web address, and it's not designed to solicit or creation of a professional relationship or induce a consumer to contact a particular licensee, then you don't have to have that information. But as soon as you put someone's name on there, suddenly it's deemed to be a solicitation. And it triggers the first point of contact information, which is the same old thing. Your name, your license number, and the company name. So pencils, refrigerator magnets, keychains, pens, notepads, coffee mugs, just they themselves alone will not trigger the requirement. Now, Archie was having t-shirts printed up, but her name is going to be on them. If it just said Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties, that does not trigger the requirement for all the information that we're talking about. But because she's putting her name on there, That requires the license information and company name.
How about if put the cover banker in the front and the name in the back?
It triggers it. Yes, yes. If you just put Coldwell Banker on there, that is just considered branding, and the obligation to post your name and your license number is not a requirement. So we probably beat this to death, but anyways, all first point of contact solicitation materials must include the name and DRE number of the licensee and the license status, and the responsible broker's identity, meaning the name under which the broker is currently licensed by the DRE. The company broker's license is optional. You don't have to put that information in there. So there's no exception for any advertising, excluding those small directional signs that just say Coldwell Banker, or if it just says turn here, or if it says just for sale, that does not trigger the requirement. But why would we even waste money in a lot of these signs without having our name on there? And then the type size of the DRE license number, it could be no smaller than the smallest size type used in the solicitation material. And then what about more than one license number? What if you are working with other individuals, or you have a team, or you're jointly advertising? Every license number for every licensee must be on that marketing material.
Wow.
Okay. And then classified rental advertisements. This used to be more of an issue, I would say, but there's no exclusion for that in regards to your name, identifying the fact that you're a realtor or agent together with your license number and the company name. And then are there specific advertising guidelines in the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics that you should be aware of? But of course there are. Realtors must not represent that their brokerage service to a client or customer are free or available at no cost to their clients, unless the realtor will receive no financial compensation from any source for those services. I would say it probably used to be more prominent where people advertise free when they're representing buyers, because it was always presumed that the seller is going to pay the compensation. But now we're asking them in every case to sign a buyer representation agreement. So nothing is free. We can tell them we might be able to offset it. Can you offer prizes, compensation, things like that? Can you make a prize predicated upon the seller signing a listing with you? Yes, you can do that. So there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to fully disclose that information. And then discrimination. So you may not run any kind of advertisement concerning the sale, rental, or financing of real property that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination because of race, color, sex, religion, ancestry, physical handicap, marital status, or national origin. The Code of Ethics goes farther that you shall not print, display, or circulate any statement or advertisement with respect to selling or renting of a property that indicates any preference, limitations, or discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity, and that applies to every form of advertising. And then words that you can safely use or not use. Am I giving you away? HUD has published a list of words, and this is not comprehensive or conclusive, but words that can be used without violating the act. We can say family room, mother-in-law suite, bachelor apartment, master bedroom, 2-bedroom, great view, 4th floor, walk up, walk-in closet, walk to bus stops, jogging trails, wheelchair ramp, quiet street, cozy, rare find, desirable neighborhood, apartment complex with chapel, kosher meals available, no bicycle allowed, non-smoking, then that's conduct required of a resident. Sober, once again, conduct required of a resident. But what you can't say, this is what they published, white family home, no Irish. It's funny how they've chosen these three these things. No Irish and no Jews, right?
Wow.
Christian home, can't say that. You can't say no wheelchairs. And no, more importantly than that, advertisements may not contain limitations on the number or ages of children, nor may they state a preference for adults, couples, or singles. And the exception to that is senior housing. And then what about religious symbols? Can you say, for example, Roselawn Catholic Home? Or what's the symbol that's like a fish, right? It's two loops. That's a religious symbol, right? Can you do that? Yes, you can. However, you have to have a disclaimer. This home does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, handicap, or familial status. So it's probably easier to not post anything that's religiously oriented, as a matter of fact. And what about advertising that you sold a property? Obviously, the listing agent could post a sign on the property saying it's sold. Can the agent who represented the buyer post a sign saying the same thing on their property? Only with the listing agent's permission can you do that. But it is available. Mike, has anyone ever asked you if they can post their sign on your listing after you sold it?
Yes,
Do they have? And what'd you say?
when I represented the seller, the buyer asked,
What'd you say?
well, after the deal's done,
Oh, you didn't care, huh? Okay.
you don't have any.
Oh.
Right?
After it closed.
No, you can say no. Just wondering what your response was. And then rules,
Me,
yes.
by that. You know, for instance, if I'm a buyer agent, I cannot advertise as a buyer.
You can advertise, yes. Those are the only people that can advertise they sold the
Right,
property
that's
is,
so-
yes. But my point was, and I probably should add clarity to this. If you represent the buyer, can you post a sign on the property before the close of escrow that you sold the property? Only with the listing agent's permission. You know, after it closes, as Mike pointed out, we don't have any more control over it, but the seller, the property owner probably would say, get a sign off my property.
Right.
And then this is interesting, the realtor logo. The DRE can suspend or revoke the license of any real estate licensee who willfully uses the term realtor when he or she is not a member of the National Association of Realtors. Everybody here is a realtor because the office is a member as a realtor, but there are just simply MLS subscribers who are not realtors, and they are not entitled to use the term realtor. And then, just in case you do use the term realtor, you should never say something like your realtor or professional realtor or California realtor. You could say Richard Moore, comma, realtor. That is acceptable. Let's see. We talked about the case study. And this is something that comes up. May a real estate licensee who is soliciting potential buyers advertise a property that he or she does not have listed. So I have people that will ask me, well, I have somebody who wants me to market their property, but I don't have a listing contract. Can I actually advertise that? Well, that's a good question, right? It's a very good question. So standard practice 12.4, realtors should not offer for sale, lease, or advertise property without authority. So it's very broad in that regard. So the code does not say the authority must come in the form of a listing contract. However, there's information, publications by car, so on and so forth, CRMLS giving guidance that you should never do that. But realistically, you could advertise someone's property with their written authority that is not in the form of a listing contract. But now there's different complications that come with that. So first of all, if you just have that authority that's granted to you, you're not entitled to any compensation. You must have a written listing agreement to be entitled to compensation. The clear cooperation policy. So now suddenly that's going to be an issue. If you advertise a property, remember within 1 day of advertising a property, the CRMLS requires that you publish that on the MLS. So now that's going to be an issue. And then if you say, well, I actually never had a listing contract, and then subsequently thereafter you list that property, they're going to come back to you and say, oh, you're in violation. You actually had a listing contract. So we don't want to get into that. And then what if you do actually take someone's written authority and says you can advertise my property even though I'm not going to pay you anything, and they happen to have a signed listing contract with somebody else? Well, that's tortious interference with their contract, so keep that in mind. And then, of course, it's not advisable, and we wouldn't permit that anyway. So when somebody asks you to advertise their property, but I'm not going to sign a listing contract, why would you ever do such a thing? You never put yourself in that position. And then, can you use MLS information in advertising? Yes, you can. You probably do it quite often. As a matter of fact, you can run a compilation of information from the MLS, and you have to specify with the disclaimer the time frame under which that compilation was run. So the beginning date and the ending date. So you can actually publish information for properties that have closed. You can do that. And then, can you use the neighborhood market report? The neighborhood market report gives you the ability to publish properties that are currently listed. However, it only allows you to do that in the form of a flyer. You can't publish it in social media, things like that. And if you do use that information from the MLS, it's presumed that each listing agent or office has given you authority. You would actually have to check property by property, because they can actually exclude or not give you the authority to market their property using a neighborhood market report. The neighborhood market report will only allow you to post certain bits of information, such as, I've got a list here. You can actually publish on that. Still looking for it. Whether it's attached or detached, the status, price, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, number of garages, whether attached or detached, square footage, lot size, year built, tract or development name, and if there's a pool. Anything else, you'll be in violation.
No address.
The address, yes. But you must give credit to the listing agent and the office, as a matter of fact, when doing something
So
like that.
this is for if it's active, not if
Yes,
it's
correct,
closed.
correct.
You can
You can do that.
close, you don't have to be worried about that.
You don't have to be concerned
Only
about
if
that.
that's
Exactly. Exactly. But it's limited in regards, so it's very clear, a postcard, flyer, or newsletter. That's the only
Okay.
publication you can use that information.
The authorization should be in writing or just verbal?
No. Actually, you look at the MLS and there's a different field that you would add when looking at the agent one-line report to see if authorization has been granted. Typically, it's probably a blanket authorization for most offices. And I don't see many neighborhood market reports being disseminated. So it's rare people use it, but it is an option,
Nice.
but limited, a flyer, a postcard.
It's like when someone sends out a market update with
Mhm.
on their farm flyer, but that you're including, instead of just the closed sales, you're including what's active and pending. But you would have to include the listing agent for each of those active and pending along with their brokerage.
Yes, now there is no specified format, but it is required to be easily identifiable.
Mm.
So it could be a good tool, as a matter of fact. And then the other thing that's more recent, as of January 1st, digitally altered images.
I have a question.
What's that?
Like in regards to that, sometimes people they call
Mhm.
for a listing that you have, but like a Redfin agent answer it, or the Zillow answer because they get it and sell it.
Yeah,
You
the
don't-
caller doesn't know that that's not the listing agent.
Who doesn't know?
The caller, the buyer,
Yeah.
that's inquiring about the property, if they're going to Zillow, they don't realize many times that the person whose picture there is
Yeah.
not the listing agent.
So they are putting their pictures, but they are not really agent on a property. So in that,
Well, if you scan down farther, you'll see who the listing agent is in the office and their license
Right.
information.
yes.
So what's your question?
Okay, so as long as the listing agent is there, they don't have to get their permit.
I think the way Zillow presents it,
Mhm.
and I don't like it, but it doesn't say that they're the listing agent. It just shows up on the same page
Right.
as the property information.
Yeah.
It just, when you scan down, you see the specs on the home,
Yeah.
And then you scan down farther and you'll find out who the listing agent is in those cases that.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's very misleading, very misleading. And they're using our listings to generate money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what I am saying, they don't advertise your name, it's just.
No, they don't advertise your name unless you pay them to advertise your name. Is there any way to eliminate someone else's picture from showing up when someone searches for a property in Zillow if you're a paying member? Just curious.
I remember talking to him about it years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually offered, hey, how about if I'm the only one there? It was like $100,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
Open in my hand.
Because you know how three pop up and
Yes, yes. Wow. That's insulting, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
your listing and they
Yeah.
they would charge you $100,000 so they can make money off of you. So let's get into what a digitally altered image is. It's defined as an image created by or at the direction of the real estate broker or salesperson or person acting on their behalf that has been altered through the use of photo editing software or artificial intelligence to add, remove, or change elements in the image, including but not limited to fixtures, furniture, appliances, flooring, walls, paint, color, hardscape, landscape facade, floor plans, and elements outside of or visible from the property, including but not limited to street lights, utility poles, views through windows, and neighboring properties.
So making the dead grass green,
Yes, making it,
which, oh, I've never seen that
you
before.
know. But if yes, some areas have light poles or power lines, and if you can see that through the window, if you modify that, now you have digitally altered that photo. And you have to have some kind of disclaimer on that picture or in the footer for you, Cecilia.
Thank you.
And if you're gonna upload them to the MLS, they require you to add the original picture
Yes,
as well.
that is right. So you need to. So first of all, if you digitally put furniture in, or what's the term?
Virtual staging.
Thank you, virtually staged property, you've altered the picture. If you've taken furniture out of the picture because there's a big hole in the couch, you've digitally altered it. So you have to put a disclaimer on there, say AI altered, digitally altered, and then you can actually have the original picture preceding or after the digitally altered photograph. You can crop a picture. That's something you can make it brighter. That's to the extent of what is not considered to be digitally altered. Yes.
Is that required? Like if I alter something, do I need to put on like the original photo before
Yes.
it's required?
Or a link to the URL for a URL that has the original photo. And that doesn't matter if it's on the MLS or any means of any media whatsoever.
If like a client give you the picture, so you have to have something from them that they took a picture. in
Yes.
writing.
Yes, there, and I forgot the name of the form, but there is a specific carved form in the library in which they're claiming that they have the license rights to that photograph. And I can assure you, being in hearings in which this has been contested, when the person who has been fined for using photographs does not have that form signed, the $1,500 fine is always upheld. So if a seller or landlord gives you a picture, make sure you get the complete written authorization, and an email has proven to be insufficient based upon Sierra Melissa's approach. So you need to have a license authority from them claiming that they own that picture.
Okay.
And they may not own the picture because maybe it's
of the
what-
form.
I don't remember. I'll look it up.
I don't understand how they can link a form to pictures. Like, how can they say it's these 12 pictures? that you're signing for, they could say, I never sent those pictures. There was some other pictures I gave them rights to. Like how, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, here's another example. There is a hearing recently, and an agent hired a photographer, didn't pay the photographer. The photographer contacted the board of realtors, filing an ethics complaint against the agent. The agent used those pictures before paying, so they actually didn't own it. And not only that, there was never anything in writing between the agent and the photographer. That's something else you should be doing, unfortunately. You need to have a license authorization of some type from the photographer every time you have photos, as a matter of fact. So in this case, then subsequently, the agent paid the photographer later on, but they were still held in violation of not having license rights to the photos that they obtained from the photographer originally.
Wow. So every time we work with a photographer or someone else, we have to have a written authorization.
Yes.
think some of the major companies on the order form that is in there.
Is it?
It's, yeah, when you place the order, there's some verbiage in there that
Yeah.
basically says by paying this, you receive the rights
Got it.
to these photographs.
Interesting, by paying this, and this agent
Yeah.
didn't pay for it, yes.
There's some verbiage in there
Yeah.
on their website, which kind of makes sense. I always wondered why they had that, but now with your explanation.
That's
it makes
why,
sense.
because they're not, Sarah Molest is no longer going to accept just a simple email from somebody indicating, yes, I gave them authority to use these photographs. So it's never a problem until you're fined. And then once you're fined, and then you're in front of a hearing panel, and Sarah Molest is going to fight it. They're going to try and collect that money. Yeah. So anyways, that is the end of the discussion today. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. So the most critical things, your name, your license number, and the company name.
I can add something fun.
Oh, please.
So we've been talking about the false advertising, how well regulated real estate is.
How often have you guys been asked for like a cleaning company or a handyman by one of your clients? Hey, can you recommend a
Oh, yeah.
cleaning? Can you pull up skyliftgarages.com? So Father's Day rolled around and we had a tenant who unfortunately called us at 9 a.m. saying that they had two cars stuck in their garage. They couldn't get them out. So we're like, okay, well, we'll do what we can. We call up our primary garage door guy. And his name's Eric. Eric was out celebrating Father's Day with his family in Rancho Cucamonga. No problem, no Brian. I can get out there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, the tenants weren't happy with that answer. They wanted their cars out now, which I can understand. So we were going to go through the Rolodex. But by the time we made our next call, they said, don't worry, Brian, we found someone. He's going to be here in 20 minutes. So, all right, sounds good. Let us know what their solution is. So that way we can approve it for you, let you know everything's okay. Well, they went to Google, and one of the first answers in Google pointed them to Skylift Garages. And if you look at it, it looks like a decent company, phone number. They're even available right now to talk if you want. So he called up Skylift Garages, and they sent someone out right away. And this guy immediately said, okay, I've got three options for you. $5,000, $3,000, or $2,000. So they relayed this to me. I said, absolutely not. Sorry, guys. Ask him how much it would cost just to open the garage door and get your vehicles out. And then we've got Eric coming by in the afternoon. He's going to take care of you from there. Thought it was reasonable. This guy supposedly told him $350. A little pricey, but you know what? It's an emergency. It's Father's Day weekend. Okay, it's approved. Monday rolls around and I call up Eric, my guy. Hey, how'd the garage door repair go? Oh, they canceled me. Strange. He was supposed to go that afternoon. And then they present me with an $1,100 bill. They said, well, good news. We talked him down. We got it to $1,100. We got our cars out. He made the repairs. They show me this invoice. This invoice does not have a company name. It has a generic garage door repairs with a logo in the corner. There's no address. There's no phone number, not even this phone number. And there's no license number. So basically what they had done was a spring replacement on this garage door, which is a common repair, but that's a $315 repair, not an $1,100 repair. Presented us with this invoice for someone who's completely untraceable. And so we call up this company and we say, hey, who'd you send out? We need to know, I need to have like a pattern of repairs on this property. So if anything happens, if that garage door falls on somebody later on, we know whose insurance to come after. Well, that's when they point me to their disclaimer section. Right down there. And essentially, you don't have to read it, but what it says is, we are a lead generation company. We are in no way affiliated with the people we send to your property. We have no way of contacting them, reaching them, or anything else. And so I want to just warn you guys that even though we're regulated to hell and back with what we have to disclose to people in terms of our licensing and things like that, that doesn't exist in most other industries. So not only are you going to find this on a lot of front page Google ads, you're going to find it pretty much anytime you open up your Instagram and you're scrolling and you see this beautiful pool by OC Pools and Landscape, and it's a guy talking to you about it. Chances are it's not a single company you're dealing with. You think you are, and that's what they want you to think. But chances are it's just another lead generation website that has no way of tracking the people that are going to actually be going out to your property. So just be careful if you're ever asked for a recommendation for a handyman, cleaner, anything like that, know who you're sending. And you can always reach out to me. I've got a Rolodex of people that I trust that we've been working with for over a decade. Shoot me a text. I can give you someone. But don't go and just Google the first name that comes along, because you don't know who you're sending and you can end up in a bunch of trouble. So we had to actually send Eric, my guy, back out later on in the week just so he could confirm that the springs were new and not used and rusty, that the installation was done correct. And then Eric, with his license and his insurance, signed off on it and said, hey, look, everything looks good to me. Now give me my $300, Brian. So tenant is still incredibly disappointed. They think we should pay them the $1,100, even though I explained, just like I did to you now, I can't give you $1,100. You overpaid. You didn't get authorization. We authorized something reasonable for you. So they're unhappy. Owner only has to pay the $315, which he was going to have to pay anyway. But just be very, very careful of everything out there is lead generation now. The easiest business to start up, and it can get you in trouble if you're making recommendations based on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Wow, it's a nightmare. Anybody else want to contribute nightmares? Everybody has stories. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming today. I appreciate it, and it's good to see you. And we'll see you next week. Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Anybody turn their cards in?
Nope.
No? Okay.